Hi everyone, it's Lauren. I hope you're doing really well. Today I have a book haul video for you, which I don't feel like I normally have, or not very often anyway, because it's not often that I just go and buy a lot of books all in one go, which is what I did the other weekend, because I've been having a bit of a crappy time recently, and I thought, do you know what? I'm just gonna throw caution to the wind. Who cares about money? I'm gonna buy some books to make me feel better. So I have a good few books to talk to you about today. I would love, as always, to hear from you if you've read any of them already, because naturally I'm very excited about all of them because they're brand new, and I got them to get the thrill of the purchase. So it'd be great to hear from you, ones that you enjoyed, any particular recommendations. All of them will be linked in the description box below, as per usual. So the first one I'll start with is a proof actually, which was sent to me by Penguin, and that is When the Lights Go Out by Caris Bray. That's a copy of the front cover there. If you can see that little picture, this is like a weird proof picture. And I really enjoy Caris Bray's writing. She's written The Museum of You, Sweet Home, which is a short story collection, which I absolutely loved. It was one of my favourite short story collections ever. So I was really excited when I heard she had a new novel coming out. This one deals with issues surrounding climate change within the family. So there's a husband and wife with two sons, and the husband is obsessed with climate change. He's a gardener, so he knows a lot about the natural world, and he keeps campaigning to everybody that there's been a lot of floods, there's been lots of rain, the end of the world is nigh, you need to sort out climate change. And the mother is just sort of trying to make Christmas as happy as she can. I have already read this, so this will be reviewed properly in my February wrap-up video, which will be coming out next week. But it was very interesting. I just really enjoy Caris Bray's writing, especially when she writes family dynamics. I think she does it absolutely expertly. So I'll talk about this more in my next video. Then everything else in this video I bought in one mad rush through Waterstones. I went to Waterstones in Piccadilly, which is a very big store if you've been there before, if you live in London. And I just kind of went a little bit mad. There were some books which I had in my mind that I would get, and others that I just sort of stuffed under my arm as I went. So the first one I have here is Strange Hotel by Emma McBride. Now, Emma McBride wrote A Girl is a Half-Born Thing, which is one of my favourite books ever. She also wrote The Lesser Bohemians, which came out, I want to say, maybe 2 years ago. And I don't think I knew that she had a new novel. Well, this is more of a novella. It's about 150 pages. And I saw it on a table in Waterstones and was just like, oh my God. So I've actually already read this, so I can review it properly next week. But this is about a woman who's dealing with grief and is going to different hotels, and each section of the book is her in another hotel, so that's the only time you ever see her. And typically with Emma McBride, it's very internal. The writing feels like a stream of consciousness in a very, very real sense. And I know that people have been talking recently on Twitter, maybe the people I follow, about the differences in how people's brains work, how some people don't really have a running stream of commentary in their head. Some people see images and some people just have feelings, and it's quite interesting because this is kind of her character jumping around between different topics and trying to work things out. And her writing is very specific. If you've read either of her previous two novels, you'll know she's quite Marmitey as writers go. But it's an interesting one, an interesting attempt. I'll talk about this more in my next video. I also picked up Supper Club by Lara Williams, and I saw this on Leanne Rose's channel, and for some reason it just really spoke to me, but also maybe in the bookshop when I saw the cover. Sometimes you just are drawn to books, and I can't really explain why, because I don't think this was Leanne's favourite book ever, but it did sound good when she was talking about it. This is about a woman that starts a supper club for other women, and it sounds like it's using the concept of being hungry and food and feeding each other as a bit of a metaphor for women being hungry in their lives for more and wanting more. And it says on the inside flap, this is a story about the hunger that never goes away, about rage, about joy, and most of all about young womanhood in all its profound loneliness, its wild, fleeting surges of hope. And reasonably unusually for me, I've kind of gone for a lot of historical fiction all in one go. And I don't know if that's just because that's what I've been hearing other people talk about a lot recently, or if that's what I'm in the mood for. I have found in the last few weeks, my reading has leaned more towards the escapist fantasy realms rather than books that focus more on contemporary life. I don't know why. But the first one I have here is The Confessions of Franny Langton, which won the Costa Book Award for the first novel prize. And I think actually a few of these books, I'm going to preface this, I saw on Simon's channel. So this is about a young woman who I believe was a slave or was on a plantation in Jamaica anyway, then ends up as a servant in a big house in London. I'm going to say London, the UK anyway. And then she's on trial for the murder of her employers. And it sounds a bit like we're starting with the trial and we're working back as to what her life was like growing up and whether or not she did do this thing. It says on the back here, through her fevered confessions, one burning question haunts Fanny Langton. Could she have murdered the only person she ever loved? So it sounds quite intriguing. I just think I'm in the mood for this kind of thing at the moment. And obviously, as a winner of a book prize, this comes highly recommended. The next historical fiction one that I picked up was The Familiars by Stacey Halls. And I actually just picked this up based on the blurb on the back of the book and based on it just being on a table in Waterstones. And I don't think I've heard anyone talk about this. But when I posted these books on Instagram, maybe last week, quite a few people were talking about The Familiars. So I think I'm really pleased I picked this up because I'd heard much more about the other books in this haul than this one. So I feel like this is a score if other people really enjoyed it. And this is about a young woman, I think it's in the 1600s, yeah. And she is on her 4th pregnancy but hasn't had any live children, and she enlists the help of a woman who may be leaning towards witchcraft, like to help her like give birth to a healthy baby. And I get the feeling it's less about actual magic and witchcraft and more about this woman being a midwife and actually trying to help the main character in this book, but there being witchcraft trials around and lots of rumours. And I'm quite interested in that sort of period of history about women knowing a little bit too much, so therefore being suspicious. And as I say, I've heard some really good things in the last few days about this book. And then something else that I definitely saw on Simon's channel, which was Once Upon a River by Diane Satterfield, but I have seen this many others as well. I try and note when I see books that other booktubers recommend so that I can like remember in my head why I'm buying them or why I'm reading them. And I'm pretty sure this one came recommended from a few different places, but for some reason I can only remember Simon. Just such an image, just such a presence in my mind apparently. And this is about, well, it starts apparently in an inn on the Thames, and someone comes in with a seemingly dead child who then breathes, and it's like she's seemingly come back to life. That's all it says on the back. It just says, is it a miracle? Is it magic? And who does this little girl belong to? Should probably be, to whom does this little girl belong? But that's fine, Diane, I'll let that go. And I quite like going into this book not knowing too much about it, because let's be honest, this blurb is pretty vague. It gives you some intrigue, but it doesn't give you a lot to work with in terms of discerning the plot. And finally, the last book I bought, again, is a book that I've just heard so much about and everyone has been praising incredibly highly, and that is Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. Of course, I'm sure you all know, this book won the Booker Prize late last year. And yeah, I think anyone I have seen who's read it seems to have completely loved it. So although there's a lot of hype surrounding the book, I'm still really excited to go into it. As far as I understand, these are 12 tales of different women, or mostly women, mostly black women, in different time periods, different locations, and I think some of them are linked. I get the feeling from the chapters that there's 3 stories that are linked. Like each chapter is about 3 different women. I'm assuming a girl, a woman, and somebody else. Who knows? But that's what I think I've heard from listening to other people who've read it. So it's just about different black women's experiences is what I understand. Some of them sort of linked and many of them not. And to be fair, I think it is quite difficult to explain books which are based on different stories of different characters, especially if they're not really connected. It's hard to really give a review or a plot more than just based on the writing style. So I don't know very much about it. I don't know very much about these women going in. All I know is that this has been very highly praised. So I'm really looking forward to this one. So those are my recent purchases. I would love to hear from you, as I've said, if you've read any of them. I'm feeling quite restrained about this. I haven't been buying books a lot recently. I've been trying to read all of the books that I already own. So I just feel like, you deserve a splurge once in a while. And I think that helps when you've had a bit of a reading slump, or you don't really know what you want to read. This is always my antidote to that, is to get some books that are brand new, that people are talking about a lot. As mentioned, I'll be back next week with my February reading wrap up, so I will see you then. Bye!